Physical-based attackers in the Pokemon world have so many more mechanics that directly affect them compared to special attackers. It's always felt a little bit unfair in my mind that attacking on the physical side is punished much more than its special counterpart. Burn, in my opinion, is the most obvious example of this. The burn status not only does a 16th of your health every single turn, but it also halves your physical attack. This is absolutely detrimental to any physical Pokemon and means that you're always scared that a rogue flamethrower might accidentally invalidate your entire Pokemon. There is no special equivalent to burn. It's just something that special types don't have to worry about when they come up against a fire type. There isn't a threat of just becoming useless. Another status that disproportionately affects physical Pokemon is confusion, which is based off a physical attack stat. Pokemon that have naturally higher physical attacks deal more damage to themselves in confusion, and whilst confusion damage isn't a lot, Pokemon is a game of percentages, and those little percentages always add up, means that confusion affects you a lot more. Another feature which is bad for physical Pokemon are contact moves. Now this isn't 100% a physical problem, because there are 7 special contact moves. However, there are so many more physical contact moves. If you don't know, contact is a mechanic in which some moves make contact with the opposing Pokemon. This normally means that you have some negative modifiers around it, such as triggering an ability like Poison Point or Flame Body. It can also trigger things like a Rocky Helmet, which punishes Pokemon by dealing damage to them when they use a contact move against the defender. Like I just mentioned, not every physical move is a contact move, but a lot of them are, and as I mentioned before, a lot more of them compared to special moves. Physical attackers also suffer from recoil moves. Recoil moves are powerful moves that are guaranteed or have the ability to deal damage to the user when they use them. This is moves like Double Edge or Takedown or Flare Blitz that deal damage to essentially both of them, but also includes moves like High Jump Kick, which have a chance to deal damage to the user if they miss. Out of all of the recoil moves, there is only one that is a special move. Eternal Floette's signature move, Light of Ruin. This might change in the future, but this is a move that you cannot use because Eternal Floette was never released. The final mechanical hurdle for physical Pokemon is Intimidate. Intimidate is one of, if not the best, ability in the whole of Pokemon. The ability to cut Pokemon's attack just by switching in is unrivaled. Intimidate is so good that it can make mediocre Pokemon into brilliant Pokemon. As with all of these mechanics, there is no special counterpart. There are some benefits, however, to being a physical Pokemon. I think that physical attackers have better ultimate moves. I like to think that in Pokemon, moves are divided into 3 categories. The low range, which are generally the kind of starter moves or the moves that you generally get rid of as you go along the journey. You then have mid-range moves, which are typically better than those starter moves. Ultimate moves are those moves that generally are over 100 base power and deal high amounts of damage but have a drawback. A lot of physical ultimate moves have this in the form of something like recoil or a stat drop. These are really good moves because you can really just spam them and not have to worry about anything. Special attacker ultimate moves are generally hindered by accuracy. Moves like Focus Blast, Hurricane, and Fire Blast have bad accuracies. I've mentioned it before, but having a bad accuracy is way worse than having a negative effect like a stat drop or something. The unreliability that you get from these moves really makes it hard to work around them, because you always have that idea in your head that 20% of the time, the move just won't go off. To counter this, however, I would say that special attackers have way better mid-range attacks. These are some of the most consistent moves in the game, like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Flamethrower. These are, in general, much better than their physical equivalents, and a lot of specially based types generally don't have options when it comes to their mid-range physical attacks. I mean, just look at types like Electric or Fairy, which are incredibly limited in their physical options. One of the ways in which Pokemon balances this out is that physical attackers are generally a bit stronger than special attackers. The average attack stat for a fully evolved Pokemon is 90, whereas the average special attack is 83. It's important to note here that defenses are around the same, with the average being around 83. A lot of people also like to say that one of the things that special attackers have to deal with that physical attackers don't is Blissey. Blissey is the special wall in Pokemon. It has the highest HP stat and amazing special bulk. The vast majority of special attackers really struggle to break through Blissey unless you have a move like Psyshock, which deals damage on a physical spectrum, or you have a move like Focus Blast, which, as previously mentioned, is unreliable. I always think that it's a bit weird that people would argue that all of these mechanics are balanced out entirely by Blissey. I also don't think it's that plausible that in Generation 2, when there wasn't even that much of a competitive or esport nature around the game, that Game Freak would create a Pokemon that is specifically meant to counter half of the types, because in Generation 2, this was pre-physical special split, and the typing dictated on which spectrum you would attack. Anyway, this video was a little bit different, just because it was more me pointing things out, rather than making changes, which is what I normally do with Pokemon. However, if you've enjoyed it still, please consider leaving a like or a subscribe, or can you think of any particular ways where you think maybe Special does have some issues that they don't have to deal with on the physical side? I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that I've earned a like or a subscribe from you. I'm gonna try and aim for 500 subscribers for around the summertime, so if you can contribute that would be a massive help. Thank you.